Justine, welcome to the show. So freaking excited to have you here because we're talking about a topic that I am hella passionate about, which is the importance of women maintaining their financial independence because there are some dusty, crusty ass men out here who are really trying to ruin your life. And if you listen to this show, I don't want you to be a victim of that type of circumstance. And we're going to have an expert here telling us exactly what we need to be doing to make sure that if you unfortunately find yourself in a situation where you got to grab your shit and go, that you are ready and that money is not going to be the obstacle for you getting out of that situation. So, Justine, welcome to Yo Quiero Dinero.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about something that I too am fucking passionate about. And I'm ready to get into it. Thank you again.
Absolutely. All right. So let's start off with an intro. Tell us who you are and what you do.
So my name is Justine Peralta. I am a financial educator and money coach, and I specialize in helping women and domestic violence survivors and victims reclaim their financial independence and get their money right. So as a former teacher, I transitioned into the financial services space, and I'm grateful for what I do as a domestic violence advocate. I'm also very passionate about helping this group of individuals.
This is like the silent abuse that is going on in so many relationships. The financial aspect of abuse can be the reason why many don't leave. And when I was writing my own book, I saw a startling statistic that said that 99% of abuse cases involve some form of financial control. So this is really one of the top obstacles, I think, that keeps people stuck. And I'd love to know more about kind of your story and what made you want to focus in on this particular group.
Yeah, so absolutely. So it's, of course, a whirlwind, but I'll start. So 13 years ago, I got into the education space. So I was teaching abroad, living in South Korea, living in Istanbul, Turkey, which was one hell of a journey. I was 25 years old living through civil unrest because at that time, Istanbul, Turkey was going through that. So you can imagine the kind of trauma and the survival tactic because your girl couldn't pay for rent. Okay. So it was like smoking cigarettes, paying for rent. It was a struggle. Then I come back to the US. I decided I'm going to get my master's degree. And so I still wanted to do something in the education space because I felt this passion and this love of being there and helping people. Then at that point, when I was out living in New York, I got a part-time job at an ed tech company. And that's kind of how I transitioned into the ed tech space. But it was also the time that I met my ex-husband. And so this guy is coming from Europe. So he's not an American citizen. There was a lot of pressure. And that's what a lot of these type of men do, is that they swoon you. They tell you everything that you fucking want to hear. And then me, at a place in my life where I had just come living from Istanbul, living in civil unrest, I'm in survival mode. I'm thinking I'm going to New York. I'm going to get my master's. I'm going to start fresh, bring peace in my life. That was not the case. That was not the case. We got married. Once you get married and it becomes legal, the truth starts to come out. And so first it starts with emotional abuse. What are you wearing? That doesn't look good on you. Poking fun at certain things. Why don't you fix your hair? And he's European, so he's all into that shit. And I'm over here like simple. I grew up a tomboy. I don't really wear that much makeup. And so little things like that started to build up. Early on, as soon as we filed the paperwork for his visa, the day that we filed, that night, he didn't come home. I found out he was cheating. Literally had the paperwork, went to FedEx, we dropped it off, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to celebrate together. And I promise you, girl, this don't take us, but this is a little story here. We turn in the paperwork, and as soon as we do, I'm thinking we're going to celebrate together. He goes, you know what? I'm going to go out with my friend who he came to this country with, and we're going to go celebrate. I just kind of let it go. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. And maybe someone who's been in this position, or we have all felt it at some point when you're with a toxic person, they have worked you to that point where you're just like, okay. So that was me. I just didn't know how to stand up for myself. Long story short, didn't come home that night. I'm texting him, trying to get a hold of him. I'm worried. What if something happened? I find out the next morning. He comes home, you know, I see stains on his shirt. And I'm thinking, the fuck is that? I asked to see his phone, and he's like, the battery's dead. And Janice, I don't know about you, girl, but I'm not thinking straight. I'm not thinking plug that shit in and let me fucking see. I'm not thinking that.
I feel like you're telling like my fucking story because, you know, I dealt with infidelity and shit in my marriage. And it's just like when you were thinking about the shit that you tolerated, it's like, girl, embarrassing. The fuck are we doing? But it's also like you are a shell of yourself. You have been made to believe that like the sky is green and you like nothing makes fucking sense, and so you just completely lose touch with your intuition and logic.
You do. And I think we need to normalize that happens. Because oftentimes, especially as a victim and a survivor, when you share your story with people, people are hella quick to write, well, I would have left. Bitch, have you been in this position before? Because if you haven't, then I don't think you're in the right space to be saying that. So it's important that we believe the victim, we take it seriously because this shit escalates. It does escalate. So anyways, find out that he was cheating. And, in that moment, there's that line. I'm thinking about it right now. There's that, okay, I really want to make this work. Oh my gosh, I should tell you. My parents had no idea that I was married.
Wait.
Your sister had the same reaction.
Okay. Please continue. I don't even know.
Okay. Filipina, I grew up with, and I'm just thinking I was always the good kid. And there was a lot of shame and guilt. So he convinced me that, listen, let's not tell your parents, let's not tell your family, let's not tell anyone, and wait until I become a successful businessman so that we can then present, hey, he is successful, right? So I believed it, girl.
Textbook isolation from your support system so that you can completely rely on them and they can tell you whatever the hell they want.
Yes, and that is what happened. I told maybe a handful of women because I was like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to someone about this. So it's like my closest girlfriends who I'm still friends with today. And I told them, and one of them was like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, she really tried to talk me out, but you couldn't tell me shit back then. You couldn't tell me shit. So side note, my parents had no idea. So at that point, I decided, I was like, okay, I need to figure this out because I don't know, I can't stay here. But then there's also a part of me that's like, maybe we could work this out. Maybe he can go to therapy. Maybe he will change. You start telling yourself these stories to normalize and to accept your situation. And that's where I was. But I also knew, I was like, fuck, I need to figure out my finances. Because at that point, and my story is a little different in a sense that I was the one who was financially taking care of us because technically he was not allowed to work yet until he got his cards. But as you know, lots of illegal workers in this country. So I had put my savings into relocating us from New York to Northern California. Down payment on the apartment, the furniture, you can imagine just so much of my money was going towards this relationship and this marriage. So I knew at that point, I was like, holy shit, I need to get myself out of this financially because how am I going to file for divorce? I can't file for divorce. It's too expensive. That was the mindset I had. So that's where I decided to start building what I call now my financial safety net. And that has the four corners of budgeting, money mindset, saving, and debt repayment. Real talk, I wasn't talking about investing the way that I do now because I didn't have the capacity, baby girl, to even fucking understand that concept. But I just knew, okay, something's got to switch here first. And now I got to put money aside saving. So after that abusive marriage, I was able to leave, thankfully, because I had my financial safety net in place. And once I left, that's kind of where that rebirth and that falling in love with myself again truly happened. So when I came back to Los Angeles, because I moved. When I came back to Los Angeles, this is how I got into the space, right? I was recruited to an MLM. Because, of course, these MLMs, they target women who are desperate, who are struggling. And I will tell you, the best part of that MLM was that they sold me the dream of financial independence. Because I didn't believe I could do that. I was in such a scarcity survival mode mindset that I didn't think, what is financial independence? But they sold that to me and I believed it. And I met some incredible people there. However, I did not believe in the mission. I felt gross. I couldn't fucking sleep at night because I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this just feels icky. So I took that financial services and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And instead, I want to break off, branch off, and become my own financial educator and money coach and actually teach women and people that IULs and life insurance is not an investment strategy.
Did y'all hear that? Because TikTok would say otherwise.
Yes.
But don't believe the hype.
No, really though. And I actually had a friend of mine reach out to me in a DM and ask me, hey, I'm actually thinking of an IUL. Have you heard of it? And I immediately wrote back to them and said, listen, as someone who used to sell it, I do not recommend that. If you need life insurance, get a term and take that extra payment, that extra money, and put it towards a Roth IRA. Put it into a brokerage account, but do not use your IUL as an investment. And he's like, I'm so happy you told me that. And I said, yeah, dude, because I'm not going to let you. No. So that's how I got into this space. It's been the evolution and then truly learning I want to serve women of color, and my community of domestic violence survivors and victims.
Wow. Okay, so much to unpack here. Let's start with the red flags that you ignored in your relationship. Because I think, it's very common for when you find yourself in these scenarios, it's almost like you have blinders on. You don't necessarily see what's happening because there's like just so much chaos right here that you can't actually like step back and look around and be like, what the fuck is going on? So what are some red flags that you now know existed, but that maybe you justified during the relationship?
He did not want to spend time with my friends. And for me, that was a red flag, but I ignored it. I ignored it. He found something wrong with the friends that I introduced him to. And these are some of my closest friends. He would find something wrong with each and every one of them. That was a red flag. The next red flag, if we were ever in a group, he would isolate himself. And it was just like me constantly checking in on him, because if I didn't, he would have an attitude. Like, why the fuck am I over here trying to be like, come here, and I've done that already. Because I am also the person that if I bring you to a new group, of course, I'm going to be like, hey, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so, meet, I will introduce you, but I'm not going to handhold you or, well, to get to know my friends that I care about. But I made the effort to do that with his. Huge red flag. The moment he was like, don't tell your parents. And I knew in my heart of hearts, I fucking knew that was not right, but I ignored it. Because I just thought it will be better in the future. So this is what I learned. And one of the biggest lessons I learned is that do not fall in love with potential girlfriends. Do not fucking fall for potential.
That should be on a t-shirt for real.
It's just this whole thing with Disney and wanting to just have this man be your savior. And I'm just like, the fuck? No. So that's another red flag as well. It's like you find yourself falling in love with his potential and their potential, and that's it. You're not paying attention to literally what is presently happening in front of you. Those are flags, red flags.
I think some people wonder how women end up in like these relationships if they don't come from a household where there was necessarily abuse or toxic behavior. And like for me, my parents have been married 40 plus years, like happily married, never had like infidelity. There was never like abuse in the home. And so there's almost like people looking for justification as well, that's where you come from. So like, that's what you get. What was your experience like when it comes to relationships? Like, what did you experience growing up?
Similar as yours. I have a younger brother. My parents, I mean, really, I was actually talking to them about this the other week. I've seen them in an argument maybe less than 5 times my entire life. And they've been together for 37 years. And my dad never laid hands on my mother, never. And when I say there was an argument, it was just like a higher raising of the voice, but no name calling. He's never called my mother out of her name, and vice versa. My mother's never done any of that. So that was one of the things. And it was just like such a heartbreaking conversation that I had with my dad, because he was like, I just don't understand where this is coming from. Hurts my heart now just even thinking about that conversation, because he was just confused. He just didn't understand. Like, wait a second, like your mom and I, we are okay. We've been together. We didn't fight, all this stuff. He's like, I just don't understand. Like, what happened? What went wrong? Quite frankly, I just had to live my life and make my decisions. And I'm not a parent, but I'm sure there must be this stress of what happened to my kid. I think I thought I did everything right. So I can understand where my dad is coming from as well.
When you escaped the marriage and started going on that personal development journey, did you come to any realizations of like maybe why you had become a victim to somebody like this?
I didn't love myself. I was looking at this partner for validation. And when I didn't get it, he just constantly put me down. You can imagine you're just kicking someone when they're already down. When he put his hands on me, that was another realization too, as well. Like thinking, oh my gosh, like there are people out there that can do this to you, because you think to yourself, this is never going to happen to you. And then it happens and it throws you for a loop. So part of my healing journey was falling in love with myself again and truly doing things that helped me become a better person and finding out what I loved again, because I didn't do any of that when I was lost in that chaos. So I started working out again. I spent every Sunday, I called them solitude Sundays or silent Sundays. I would text my parents or my girlfriends and say, hey, I'm doing this hike at this place at this time. And then I would let them know where I was. And then I'd go on these hikes and I'd be gone the whole day with no notifications. I would purposely silence them so that I would just be alone in my thoughts. And there was just so much self-reflection that happened to really help me discover, hey, I really enjoy this. Oh, Justine, I really like this about you. And learning those little pieces again. Yeah.
That isolation, I think, is like so important, that solitude, because when you're going through all of this chaos, the last thing that you have space to do oftentimes is literally just like listen to what is going on inside your brain. And so for me, my like epiphany moment was taking my first solo trip and just having like pure silence and sitting in my hotel room and getting a universal download that said, you need to get a divorce. It was like clear as fucking day. It was like a voice from the heavens, literally, you need to get a divorce. Like clear as fucking day. And that whole thing like started the trajectory for me. But it's like, if you don't give yourself this space to even hear what's really going on, you're just going to keep going in autopilot and like being distracted by the fucking chaos.
Yes. And that's like another thing too. You can have that support group, but you really got to figure out how to do that from within as well. Because your girlfriends or your friends or your family, they're going to be feeding into you. And it's just like, and when you're so, what's the word I want to look for? Like when you're so tender still, because again, remember, you're remolding, you're rebuilding, you're going to be easily influenced. So that's why I valued my time. I also did a solo trip. And when I did that solo trip, I was just farting around and doing everything that I fucking loved. And it was almost like there was a part of me at the very beginning, where it was like, well, he never liked to do this, so I'm going to do it. And then that transformation of I'm doing this because I fucking want to do this. You go from that like resent, that anger, like well, he never let me eat donuts, so now I'm going to eat all the donuts, right? So like, and then that slow transformation, like, I want this glazed donut because I love it. It tastes delicious. It's yummy. It's something I like. That was when I knew. I was like, okay, shit's working, girl.
Yes, you're not doing your recovery is not a like a punishment for like all that you've endured. It's actually a privilege to be able to pour back into yourself after depleting yourself for such a long time. Okay, so let's talk about the money, right? If you find yourself in a situation where like you've come to the realization like I need to get the fuck out of here. I think it sounds easier said than done potentially depending on the situation that you're in, right? If you are someone who is financially dependent on someone, you're a stay-at-home mom, you don't necessarily have access to income or resources that the other person doesn't control, how do we tackle that?
And that is one of the hardest situations when you actually have no access to money, period. What I recommend is if that is the case, then seeking out the local shelters that are in your area, calling, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, talking to people, because that's 24 hours that they are available, but talking to someone that can guide you to a place where there are those monetary resources. Something, and this is hard to do, and if you still have that connection with people, like you're not completely isolated, to ask your family and friends for help. And if you are that person that a survivor or a victim is going to, and perhaps you feel uncomfortable giving money to this survivor for whatever reason, maybe you're thinking, well, how do I know you're going to use the money? Or maybe you just don't want to give that money. Something that can help victims and survivors is give them gift cards, right? Give them gift cards. If you can buy them, put money on a Metro card, if that's transportation wise, giving them that type of financial support can help them, because there are websites out there that you can take that gift card, you can cash it out, and you can use that money. I know it's not a lot, but it's a place to start. In my case, I had money that was coming in, so I had to figure out how to put my money aside into a savings, how much I needed to put into my debt. I was in collections. Oh shit. All these things, like my credit was terrible. So that's a different case. But if you are struggling to have any sort of money, going to the shelters, going to the resources that are outside, and getting some guidance there. And then, of course, if you can ask for money, that, I know that's hard, but that's one of the other ways you could go about it.
Yeah. It really just is about letting people know that you need the support. This is one of those situations that can feel very isolating and embarrassing. And there's a lot of shame that comes up when you find yourself in the situation. So I think that's what keeps people from asking for help. And, it could potentially also be a way to protect yourself from potential violence. Okay, so let's talk about the financial aspect of getting out of these relationships, right? Because it's one of the things that I think is a big barrier to people, especially if you're in a situation where you're financially dependent on someone. Let's say you're like a stay-at-home mom, or you just don't have access to financial resources, without them potentially like being involved. So what would your advice be for somebody who finds themselves in that situation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think one of the things that you can do, and something that I remind women and people who are in this situation, is that if you know that you have a shared account with this person, you know that your name is on it, what you can do is you can go and pull those bank statements. You have access to those accounts. I think we forget that, oh my gosh, this person doesn't let me log in. I don't have any control. I can't see what's happening with the finances. One of the things you want to find out is if your name is actually on the account, because if it is, then you can go and ask for those bank statements. So that's one of the things that I say start with first, is you need to know if your name is even on the account to begin with. That's where I would start with that.
Yeah. Now, as far as like maybe you're in a situation where you need to get an apartment and you're just like, I literally can't pull out money without this person knowing because everything is joint, right? I have nothing that is in my name. How can we go about kind of like navigating that situation where it's like, I'm going to be detected? What's going to happen then?
This is where it gets really, really tough. Because if you actually have absolutely no access to that money and you have no money at all, you haven't been working, this is normally where I say, okay, you need to go to some sort, you need to call the domestic violence hotline, get to some sort of professional help to guide you. And those advocates that are on the domestic hotline, they are excellent. They are there for you 24 hours. They can guide you in the right direction as to maybe what shelters are close by, what resources are next close to you that you can go to, that you can call to get help. Because the truth of the matter is, Janice, if we don't have access to money, it's hard to even start making any sort of plan if there's no money in front of us. So I would say really trying to go and get professional help from someone. And something that I also mention is that, and I know I did this, a lot of lawyers, they do free consultations. So what I did was I literally made a list of questions that I was going to ask this lawyer because I know that I knew I only had 10 minutes with them. So those are things that you could do too as well, where you're just making a list of questions, you're calling these lawyers because they do the free consultations, and you're really taking advantage of that. So you're not pulling extra money out. One thing I will say is this as well. At least in the state that I'm in the state of California, we have legal self-help centers. And here's a little bit of a backstory. While I was in college, I worked at a courthouse, a self-help legal center. And when I worked there, I was helping women or individuals who could not hire an attorney. I was helping them file for divorce themselves, or I was helping someone responding to a divorce, right? They got served the papers. So I had that experience in that self-help center. And I know that when those centers were created, and they're there to help your low income families or communities who can't necessarily afford an attorney. So if you have those self-help centers in your state, I recommend going there because you're actually going to speak with an attorney that will help you look at your situation. And also, if you need to file a restraining order, they will help you with that restraining order. If you cannot file those paperwork at the courthouse, there are fee waivers that they help you fill out so that you can submit your papers. So there are places, you just have to go to the right resources.
I love the fact that like you're bringing awareness to that, because I think there's a lot of people who just don't even know that those resources exist. And that's one of those things that can feel like a barrier, right? When you're in these situations and you're like, yeah, I need a lawyer. Yeah, I need support. But like, how the hell do I get access to this? So there are resources out there. We're going to make sure to link all of those in the episode show notes so you guys can find out more about where to find your local legal aid society and also the domestic violence hotline. I think one of the things that people think about too is like your actual physical safety could be compromised in this scenario, depending on just like who you're dealing with, if you decide that you want to leave. So what's your recommendation from like, who should we be telling people around us that we're going to go? Like, or should we keep a secret? Like what is the best approach?
From my past, okay, and this is the lesson that I learned, and also now just working in the space, I would not tell the abuser that you are leaving. I would not tell them, because now you've given them the heads up that you are planning this escape, you are thinking about leaving. And actually, it gets very dangerous because now they know that information and they might become even more aggressive than what they've already shown you. So I would not recommend telling the abuser that you are leaving. One other thing that I think about too is, and from my personal experience, I told my ex-husband, right? At the time, I was like, I'm leaving. I did it. And he laughed in my face and he totally thought that I wasn't actually going to do it. And so if you're already in this like state where you've lost your confidence, you don't feel great, you don't believe in yourself, and you have this person now continuing to manipulate you and tease you and break you down, you're going to become less likely to follow through. So what I recommend is don't tell the abuser what your plan is, but also I recommend that you tell certain people in your life that you absolutely trust. And I'm not saying don't go onto social media and say it. I'm talking about people who are close to you, who are in your circle that you absolutely trust, will not judge you, and is there for you. because that support group is so crucial. And especially if you have kids with you, you want to make sure that you're protecting not just yourself, but also your children. One thing to keep in mind as well, some people, they're just like, oh, well, this is financial infidelity because you're hiding all this information. Not in this case. Not in this case. When your life is in danger and you are experiencing domestic violence and you're experiencing abuse, if you wanted to open up your own bank account without your partner or your spouse's name on it, you can absolutely do that. I think that's another misconception that we have is, I'm married, I have to put my name on everything with my partner. No. No, you don't. No, you don't. So you can go and open a bank account if you need to. If you have your driver's license, your social security number, if you have your documentation with you, you can open those accounts in secret without telling your partner.
Absolutely. And even if you are like completely in love and you never see yourself separating from your partner, like at the end of the day, I feel like every woman should just have her own pot of money. It just doesn't make sense to me in this day and age for you to just combine everything, despite what like personal finance gurus like Dave Ramsey and them talk about, like, oh, once you become one unit, like everything's yours. Fuck that. I'm sorry. Because at the end of the day, like, you need a safety net. And that is what having your own money represents.
I agree. I 100% tell people, and I tell the women in my life, I tell my homegirls, I tell everyone, you can love a person and you may think that this is going to work out, but at the end of the day, you are just as important and you need to have your own. Bottom line, you having your own doesn't mean that you don't love this person. And let me tell you, girl, when I got married, I did not sign the prenup. We didn't do any of that. I mean, we went to the freaking courthouse and just got married, And thankfully, we had absolutely nothing to our name, which I'm grateful for. So the divorce made it a lot easier. And also in the state of California, you can part ways if you follow like a list, right? Like a joint dissolution is what they call it. But I say that all the time. As a woman, you are not weak if you have your own money. You are not weak if you don't combine with your partner. You can absolutely have your own. You can absolutely have your own and still be in a happy marriage and a happy relationship.
That's it. Nobody is entitled to all of your hard work. And like, let's not feel guilty about protecting ourselves, because if you don't do it, who the hell is going to do it?
I say that all the time. At the end of the day, like the longest relationship you're ever going to be in is with yourself. So you just got to take care of you.
Okay, so one of the things that I have found about financial abuse is that it can be like more sinister and more like covert than somebody who just like physically abuses you, right? Like that's in your face. Can we talk about like what some financial abuse red flags are so that people can start thinking about like, hey, is this actually potentially going on in my relationship?
Yeah. Okay. So if you are asking about money and your partner is telling you, no, it's okay, babe, I got it. I'm going to take care of it. You don't have to worry. That's a really popular line. You don't have to worry. I'm going to take care of you. Now, I'm not saying that maybe this person really is going to take care of you. But if you are asking for information and they keep denying you access to that financial information, that is a red flag. That is a red flag. If they are saying like, oh, if they're trying to control you in a sense where they're like, I want you to stay at home. I want you to be a stay-at-home mother or whatever that is, a stay-at-home wife. I bring home the money. I want you to start questioning that. You just got to start leaning into it. Maybe it may not be anything serious, but you need to question that kind of behavior where they are trying to take away your autonomy or trying to steer you away from your autonomy. Just lean into that. Lean into that. I think also we have to be aware of sometimes what leads into financial abuse is the financial infidelity that happens maybe before that. And so financial abuse is about control. I'm trying to control this person and making sure that they don't have access to financial resources. Financial infidelity, maybe they're being dishonest about something, right? Maybe they're lying about something. Maybe you are dating this person. They tell you, I'm a multimillionaire. I've got X amount of properties. I have this, I have that. And then all of a sudden you move in together and this person doesn't want to pay any bills. Maybe they're being a little hesitant, and you're starting to wonder, I guess I'll take care of this. Y'all get married, and then you find out that is financial infidelity when they're withholding information from you and you have no clue that this is happening. When I was married, that's what happens when you just like get married real quick and you're not clear in your mind, but it's okay. We learned. But he was a gambler.
Oh shit.
Where we lived, there was a casino, and at one point I found myself driving him to the casino almost every night. You sitting there and I'm like, I don't like gambling. I mean, what the fuck are you doing, Justine? It was a lot of that. Even now that I think about it, I'm like, holy, I really drove this man almost every night, to the point where it was like, I would wait because I was like, let's go home. That was like my way of like, let's ease out of here. And he was like, I'm just going to take a lift home. Tell me why you coming home at 6 a.m, 7 a.m. So it's things like that. You don't really see those flags perhaps, or maybe I just didn't do my due diligence. I don't know what you want to call it, but those types of things where they're hiding money, or they're talking about, that was another thing too. They're talking about, I don't have the money to like support us, but then you're going and you're spending it gambling. That's financial infidelity. Those are some of those flags.
Lord, it's so real because I think, when, again, it's almost like you have blinders on when you're experiencing this on a day-to-day basis. And so in retrospect, everything's always like 2020 vision. I remember finding out that like my ex-husband had defaulted on his student loans. And then like the first time that we filed joint tax returns, they garnished the tax return because the government is not going to fucking play with you when you take out federal student loans. Like if you have a tax return, they will garnish your shit. They will garnish a portion of your paycheck. They will garnish your Social Security. They'll garnish whatever they can. And it's just like finding those things out. Oh my God, Justine, let me tell you what I found out. When I was selling my house in New Jersey before, like I had moved to Florida already. I put the house up for sale. The house my name was only on the mortgage because my ex had terrible credit, but both of our names were on the deed. So I don't know, it was like a week before closing was scheduled, and the title company sends me an email talking about, oh, you have like X amount of thousands of dollars of liens on your property because your ex-husband, well, he was my husband at the time, but he got multiple DUIs and fines from the court that he did not pay. And so then the state placed a lien on the property and said, you cannot sell this until you settle this debt with the state. I had no fucking clue. I had to come up with thousands of dollars out of fucking nowhere to sell this house. I was already losing money on the sale of the home. And it's like that type of shit is, you don't even realize it, but you're being fucking abused because you're being forced to fix this person's mistakes, clean up their fucking mess, deal with their degenerate behavior, and it's costing you money.
And it doesn't just happen right there and then. It literally is like years of having to fix that problem that follows you. Yeah, that's something I see common when I'm working with women who have experienced financial abuse. They're like, I had no idea this guy took out credit lines and loans under my name, and now I need to fix this. And it's like, okay, we're gonna be okay, girl. That's unfortunate, right? But that's what happens with financial abuse.
Yeah. That's why I'm so glad about the work that you do, because honestly, I think you serve such a vulnerable population that really needs that support to be able to make this transition. And so I'd love for you to talk about like what that actually looks like on a practical level when you do decide to work with a client. Like what are you actually helping them do, and how does your, process work?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the women that I'm working with are referral based, because what's happening is that we're not talking about this openly. It's very, very hard. So I think part of me sharing my story it gives hope to women. So there's that piece. But a lot of the women that come to me are women that I've known, right, from maybe many years who are slowly creeping up and saying, Justine, I need help. And then help them who then say, hey, go to Justine. So I work a lot on referral basis, but really getting to know them. I give every woman just an hour. It's like not even part of the coaching package or what I do, but sitting an hour with them and just truly getting to know them, asking them all the questions. I just want to understand where they're coming from, what situation they're in, how can I best support them, what is their learning style, do they prefer to do it in person? Because there are women that have worked in person and there are women that are like, I would much rather just do this on Zoom. I don't want to go, so everyone has different learning styles, but really just assessing what it is that I can help. And then we come up with a personalized roadmap on how I can best support them. And what I like to do is in between my sessions, I give them my phone number. I give them my phone number so that if they need, like they have that quick question and they don't want to email me and they want to text me, I'm there for them. So I just want them to know that they are not alone. They're not doing this alone, and that they have guidance and that they are absolutely capable of reclaiming their financial autonomy. It's totally doable. It just takes time. It takes time.
I think that's the thing too. It's like the thought of starting over, I think keeps people stuck too, because it's just like, well, how the hell am I going to afford my own place? And how am I going to find a safe space for my children? And do I have to go back to work now? How am I going to balance being a potential like single mom and all these things? And it can be done, but you staying stuck in that situation, that's a surefire way to make sure that nothing changes and potentially things get a whole lot worse.
Yes. Something I told myself a lot when I was going through my divorce and when I was like going back and forth of like, do I leave this person? What do I do? I had told myself like this mantra was have the capacity for zero. Have the capacity for zero. And that is a very scary feeling, knowing that you are going to just let everything fucking go and you're going to start from scratch. And I remember when I left, when my ex-husband or husband at the time, when he was at work, I went back to our apartment and I was packing my shit. And when I was packing my stuff, I was like, "Woo, girl, you're going to have to let all of this go." I took my mom's pots and pans because I was like, hey, motherfucker, you don't even cook. I laugh about it now, but I was like, what am I going to take and what am I going to leave? And I told myself, just have the capacity for zero, girl. If you're going to, my credit was whack. I was in collections. I had very little cash, whatever was left. And I just said, okay, I'm taking my mom's pots and pans. I'm taking this one suitcase and I'm leaving everything else behind. And so that really helped me get through that really hard time and just telling myself that it's like create space right now to start from zero so you can do it on your terms.
That's a very powerful mantra to live by, because you have to remember that like everything that you have now, you've built. And so why can't you rebuild that? And especially in a healthier environment where you're not dealing with this type of shit that is literally draining you and sucking your soul.
Exactly. It was one thing that I kept telling myself, and I'm so glad I left and I just didn't want to truly look back anymore. And it's really scary knowing like I can't leave everything behind. I have nothing. And it's like, well, you can have nothing with this person or you can have nothing with yourself and you can, you know what I'm saying? You can build it on your own, sis.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So for those of you like who are listening to this, who maybe are like on the other side of this, maybe just like freshly out of the situation, but you don't know what's next. Like, what would your piece of advice be to people who are like, just tell me what I need to do right now, Justine, to set myself up for success so I never find myself in this situation again?
When I was unpacking my why, what was my why? Why did I want to leave this person? Why did I want to get out of this marriage? What it came down to was safety. So what I wanted to do was every decision I was making was tied to that why, which was safety. So what did that mean? I needed to find a place that brought me safety, that I felt safe with. I need to think about the people that I was surrounding myself with. Did they bring me safety? I think my advice is you've got to have that first step. You need to have that honest conversation with yourself, and you need to identify what your why is, because all the other decisions you're going to make after that are going to be tied to that why. That's what I did. And I think that's where I would start. I would start by saying, identifying what your why is and having that honest conversation. Don't be going out dating, trying to figure out what the fuck just happened to you. I need to say that because I think what happens is we're like, now we're going to go lean on someone else. So we're going to find another person to fill this void, when really the void you need to fill is with yourself. So truly investing in yourself first, and that could be putting it into your health. You know, that could be surrounding yourself with people that uplift you, that support you. That could be continuously learning. Susie Orman, girl, Susie motherfucking Orman, she came back in my life. My mom gave me a book, one of Susie Orman's Women and Money. She gave me that book and my mom gave it to me.
That was my first entry into personal finance. Like, that should change my life.
Me fucking too. It was that book. My mom gave me that book. I remember reading it and thinking, oh my God, I can be independent and financially independent. I don't need no man. Like, it was this whole thing. But I think just putting yourself in rooms that allow you to grow, putting yourself in rooms, so listening to podcasts, meeting different people, spending time with yourself. That's what I would say.
I love it. I freaking love it. And my last question for you is, how has this experience changed you?
First of all, I like shout out to my old self, to like the old Justine. And I think about what she had gone through in her 20s, even probably early 30s. And I just thank her, especially during that abusive marriage. I just thank her almost every day for saying, thank you for betting on yourself and for believing in you. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. And now when I look at challenges, I'm like, bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. You've done so well for you. And there are things that I did not appreciate about me that I sure as hell appreciate now. Just like appreciating my mind, my tenacity, my sense of humor, my love for people, my kind heart. You know, those were things that I had absolutely no grasp on when I was in that chaos. It changed me for the better. And I'm grateful that I get to wake up every single day, and that I have my breath, and that I have my two legs and my eyes and my hearing and my, and my smell, my taste. I'm so grateful I have all those things. And I don't want to take advantage of it. So I think that's also another reason why, as much as possible, I try to live with intention, move with intention, because we have a book, right, of ourselves, and we get to write those chapters in that book. And I love knowing that I'm the author of my life, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Ooh, the author of my life. I love that. I am the author of my life. I think that is going to be the new mantra for 2025. And, it is difficult. I just want anybody who's listening to this right now who finds themselves in a situation that they know they got to go. It is going to be one of the hardest things that you do. But I promise you, I have never spoken to a divorced woman, especially one who actually chose to leave, who regrets that shit. Never. Okay? I've never spoken to somebody who's like, oh, I wish I'd stuck around and made it work. No, because the fact of the matter is that, like, when we have made that switch in our heads, we already have known for a long fucking time that it's time to go. And it's the hardest thing to just turn off the emotions and turn on the logic and follow through. It is not easy, but I promise you, you will not regret that shit. So just a reminder, there are a lot of people who've gone through this, and you will survive too. But you have to make a choice. and choosing yourself has to be that choice.
I love that. That like soothes my soul to hear that. I think it's important that we continue to tell women that they have choice, and the power of choice, for sure.
Absolutely. All right. So, Justine, I know people who are listening to this who are going to want to know more about you, going to want to find out how they can work with you, where they can follow you. Tell us all the things.
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me on X and you can find me on Instagram at Miss Financial Fit. I talk about money, personal finance, but I also share my health journey because I think health is wealth at the end of the day. And it was a huge, huge part of my healing. And how I got good with money was because I prioritized my health. And so that's why when you come to my page, I talk about domestic violence and I do talk about health and I talk about personal finance and really just helping women get money strong and body strong. So you can find me on X and Instagram. And then also I've got my book that's coming out. So if you want to join the wait list, you can go to justinedeperalta.com/waitlist. And then you can put your name on there, sign up with your email. I'll send you nice little updates, fill you in on what's going on.
Tell us about the book.
Okay, girl. So the title of the book is Girl Jump, and it's building your financial safety net so that you can leave an abusive relationship and reclaim your freedom. I share my story of divorce, that particular time in my life, how I got there, the financial mistakes that I made. And these are mistakes that are not your common financial mistakes where it's like, I didn't have a budget. No. We're talking like deeper. I wasn't having money conversations with this person, right? So talking about the financial mistakes that I made, the lessons that I learned, and then also teaching you how to build your financial safety net that I used myself to help me get out of that toxic situation. So I'm super excited. I'm scared, but I'm excited.
Only a woman would write a book like this. And so I'm so glad that it's you. I cannot wait to pick up a copy. Y'all, you need to follow this incredible woman. She is doing really, really important work and really breaking taboos around a topic that is affecting more people than you think. But it's an important thing that we need to take the stigma out of and really shed light on so that we can stop this cycle of people suffering in silence. Enough is enough.
Oh, yes, girl.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I had such a wonderful time speaking with you, and I'm excited for what is going to happen for both of us and what 2025 is going to bring us.
Absolutely. All good things, a lot of money, a lot of success, and more than anything, just continuing to live unapologetically, which I invite all of you to do. Thank you so much for being here.